Hello guys. So now our topic is what is internet. So we are going to learn how the internet works and what exactly happens when we actually get to the using an internet. So an internet is a communication system between a client and a server. So there are two machines involved in using an internet. Alright, basically two, and we can have multiple systems. Well, we are not bothered by how multiple systems communicate right now, but we are only going to concentrate on how two systems communicate when we are actually using an internet. So the one is client and the second one is server. So a client can be a web browser and the server could be an IP address. So we already know what a web browser is because we're actually using a web browser. You might have as well watching this course on a web browser, right? What is an IP address? So an IP address is similar to how you have an address for your home. All right, if I want to send a parcel to you, I need to have the address to your home so that it can reach you. In a similar way, every website has an IP address. So this is a basic understanding of what an IP address is, but we're going to look into more fundamentals of understanding what the IP address is in a little time. So a very basic communication is a client makes a request to the server and then the server responds to the request by sending some data. So what it could be? So if you observe here, the client makes a request. What? It is searching for www.google.com and the server responds by sending it a Google homepage. Alright, so this is how a basic request and response works. Okay, so what else we can do? So let's understand what an IP address. So a google.com, www.google.com is a domain page. So this domain name is what we are actually requesting on a web browser, right? So when we request the domain name, you see here the definition of IP address. IP address is a sequence of numbers. So it is easier for us to remember a domain name rather than to remember an IP address. So what is the basic concept here? What we're going to do is we're going to link the domain name to the IP address. So both of them actually means the same address, but since remembering names is much easier than numbers, we are going to use a domain name. Alright, so every domain name is mapped to an IP address. So the internet service provider does a domain name system lookup to map domain name to IP address. So basically what happens here is whenever we search for www.google.com, the internet service provider makes sure that whatever we search for using the browser, he will take the domain name and does a lookup for that IP address matching the domain name. Whenever the IP address is matched, the request will be directed to the IP address. In a similar way, how? So let's go and look. So here are a client, a server, a web browser and an IP address. So whenever there is a request made, it will be sent to the ISP. What is an ISP? Internet Service Provider. So he performs a DNS lookup for IP address. After it's matched, it will be sent to the IP address. What it will send? The request. And after the server matches with the request, it will make some whatever operations that it has to be done. It will do every operations and then it will send a response. It could be an HTML page, a text, an image, or any status code, whatever it can be. The server will respond anything. Even if it is a failure, it will send a failure response. Alright, so this is basically how an internet works. So if you wonder where our Flask application is going to be sitting on, there is no question about it. We are going to make our Flask application on the server side because we are going to serve requests. So ours is an application that is going to serve the user requests. So obviously we are going to put it on the server side. So this is basically how an internet works. So with this lecture we have got our fundamentals of how the internet works straightened up. So we know So now we know how the internet works, what is the process involved whenever a request is made from the client side, and how the response is sent from the server side, what is an ISP, what is the DNS, what is an IP address. So everything we have cleared out. Alright, so now is the time to actually go ahead and make some real hands-on experiments. So before that, what we're going to do in the next lecture, we're going to install Python, set up our development environment, and go ahead from there. So let's meet in the next lecture.